What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about why Europe's farms are better than the United States? Really? Because most Americans think that farming is something that we do pretty good, actually. Like, we're very proud of it. Like, I thought that the US was kind of known for our farming ability, our farming excellence, you could say. That's definitely what we believe here. But apparently, Europe does farming better. So today, I really want to check out this video here by Business Explains the World and learn more about this and try to understand what Europe is doing better. So let's take a look.
Check this out. This is Almeria, Spain, and it's completely white. You can see thousands of these huge rectangular rooftops. What are these, and what's underneath them? I went to Spain to find out. And
What? Okay. This is random. Or does this have to do with farming? White rectangles? I guess. In Spain?
and what I found was a sea of plastic. 150 square miles of it, to be exact. And underneath all of this is something you wouldn't expect.
Gardens, tens of thousands of them. All of these structures
No
are actually
way.
greenhouses. This region is roughly half the size of New York City, but it supplies nearly 50% of all of Europe's vegetables.
What? What? Seriously? How have I never heard of this before? This is just stuff that you guys got going on in Europe that I guess Americans, like, we have no idea. What? What's really impressive here is how it's such a small region, such a small area of Spain, like less than the size of New York City, responsible for 50% of Europe's vegetables? What? How is that even possible? So, it's already I've never heard of growing or so many vegetables or farming so much in such a small area. You guys have you're clearly onto something here. Like, very technologically advanced. It even looks like futuristic with all the white plastic bubbles of plants growing indoors. And this is how you guys do it? Because I feel like we don't do we don't do anything like this.
Of New York City, but it supplies nearly 50% of all of Europe's vegetables. That is an insane amount of veggies for such
Yeah.
a tiny place.
Yeah.
This kind of farming looks super different from what I'm used to seeing back home.
Yeah. Like, what? This is what I'm used to, right? Isn't this what farming is supposed to look like? Out in a big field? Or so this is interesting. It's like, has Europe brought farming like into the future and just like left us behind or something?
Trust me, I'm from Nebraska. I know farms.
But these massive US mega farms aren't growing rows and rows of fruits and vegetables. They're typically not even growing plants meant for human consumption.
I don't even like the sound of that. Like, I know, as an American, I'm aware that they put some weird stuff in our food, honestly, and even the pesticides and chemicals they put in our farm products are weird. But she's talking about something even different. I don't even know if I want to know what the US is doing with our farms now. I don't know.
In 2023, the entire United States grew about 1 billion pounds of bell peppers, a decent, respectable amount. But here, just in Almeria, they grew 1.5 billion pounds of bell peppers.
What? I mean, she said this is less than the size of New York City, grew more than the entire United States. What the hell are we doing? I'm not exactly sure what Europe is doing, but it's clearly working. You got white plastic rectangles. We need to learn about this because clearly we could be doing more.
How is that even possible?
If this tiny area is so crucial to Europe's livelihood, it got me wondering, why isn't America's system more like this?
Yes.
Why are we getting so massively outgrown by a tiny plastic-covered desert in this little corner of Spain? Could it change? And for our own food security, should it change? So I did what we always do here on Business Explains the World. Flew to the source to see it for myself, talked to the people who actually make it happen, and find some answers.
And after
Cool.
all that, one thing became clear. America's farms should look a lot more like this.
Really? Like, this is not what I picture. When I picture farming, I guess I'm picturing something that's been done the same way for like hundreds of years or longer. I didn't even realize like Europe had taken farming so far into the future. Like you're growing it like indoors, like hanging on plastic poles, or you're doing it in a very controlled manner. Yeah, maybe this is even healthier. Like it really makes me wonder like what is the US doing? Like why wasn't I even aware of this? I don't
Today, we're at one of the tens of thousands of family-owned farms here in Almeria.
This is a third generation greenhouse. It was from my grandparents. So agriculture, let's say, is running through my veins, in my blood, you know?
This is family owned? So that's something I was wondering about because like here in the US, our farms are typically owned by several generations of families who basically run their farm like their own business, and it's their livelihood and their history even. It means a lot. And the way that these greenhouses, these don't even look like greenhouses that I have seen. This looks way more advanced, honestly. Very modern. It's amazing. And it's cool that in Europe, like in Spain here, these are owned and operated by families, by small businesses. Like it looks very corporate, like some big business owns it. But and that's something that Americans wouldn't really want for farming, because farming, for some reason, like we have an attachment. Farming should be like normal, humble people working hard and family owned, and we really like that. And this looked like it wouldn't be possible if you did it like this, but it is. This is just like a normal family operated business. That's amazing.
Does this go all the way down there?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is a boatload of peppers.
Standing here, it's hard to believe that this region used to be one of the most barren places on the continent. Almeria is part of the only true desert in Europe. Its big, dry, rugged landscapes were the settings for some of our early spaghetti westerns and big blockbusters.
Wait, they were able to do this on a piece of land that was like very barren and useless. Oh my God. Because obviously, like in the US, you need farmland to farm like the traditional way. You need like soil with nutrients and lots of space, and the land really matters. Here, if you do it this way, the modern European way, you can build these anywhere, probably. Oh my God, that's such a massive benefit.
not what you'd think of as an agricultural mecca. And for a long time, it wasn't. Today, this tiny area grows between 2.5 and 3.5 million tons of fruits and vegetables every year. There are other places on the European continent that can grow in greenhouses at scale, like in the Netherlands, for example, but no one can really compete with Almeria's 300+ days of sunlight every year.
Oh, sure. So that's still a limiting factor. Like, it's important to have, there are some conditions that are just a requirement, no matter how much you use technology or move soil around, or you need sunlight.
These greenhouses don't have to burn through heat and energy in the winters like a lot of others do. I mean, it's February right now and it's it's hot. And if you're thinking, but what about summer? Doesn't it get too hot? Don't worry, they figured that out too. When the temperature outside starts climbing into the 90s, farmers paint the outside with white chalk to reflect the sun back out. And scientists have actually found that this has had a cooling effect on the entire region. But to my American eyes, perhaps one of the most interesting things about Almeria is just how many people work here. There are tens of thousands of individual family farms, including Hermans.
It is so cool how, like, I thought this was so technologically advanced that, like, there were not any humans, like robots. Maybe in the future that is how it will be, but it's cool to see that there's a lot of people who make a living doing it this way, and a lot of families, and that's awesome.
So this greenhouse system really seems to be working out for Europe. The US, on the other hand, does things a little differently.
This is a map of all the farmland in the US. Over here and over here is where we grow our fruits and vegetables. We grow a lot of it, just not enough to feed ourselves. And not because we can't, we just don't. The US is the world's largest importer of fresh fruits and vegetables, a phenomenon that's been on the rise for decades.
I actually didn't know that. Interesting. We don't even grow enough of our own produce and fruits and vegetables to feed our own population, so we have to import. And it's probably because of the way we farm. It takes up so much space, so much effort, honestly. That's what I'm seeing. Europe has created this extremely efficient greenhouse system. In the US, like, farming the way we do it, the way I think of it, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of space. It's a lot of effort and resources. It's just not as efficient. So we're not even making as much food for ourselves as we could.
These days, on average, more than 1/3 of the vegetables consumed in the United States every year are imported. Some crops, like cucumbers, are almost entirely imported. Our most fertile soil is here, and I grew up here, so I know what I'm talking about. But instead of diversified rows of fruits and vegetables like these, our farmland is dedicated to huge monoculture crops. These are crops.
That's another big difference, too. It sounds like in Europe, you guys have a good diversity of, vegetables and produce that you grow. Whereas in the US, we focus on, like where I am, corn. Just corn it's just corn. And, just like a couple massively produced vegetables. So we're missing out on a bunch too, the way we do it.
Like corn, wheat, and soybeans. They're called commodity crops because they're not really meant for human consumption. Instead, they're processed into animal feed and biofuels and things like that.
We're not even like making the food for humans. What? And maybe it's for money or... Man, that's disappointing. Like, this is the side of American farming that Americans don't even know about. Like, I didn't know about this. We're always taught to be, like, proud of our farmers, proud of our farms. And it's like, wait a minute. But nobody ever told us a lot of the food isn't even for us. It's for, like, the cows or something. Like, what?
And while massive farms stretching for miles might sound great for that specific purpose, they have some serious downsides. Monocultures strip soil of its nutrients, rely heavily on chemical pesticides, and generally leave the plants more exposed to climate shocks and disease.
I've heard they use lots of chemicals. Like, That's why organic food is so popular in the US. I mean, kind of popular. It's very expensive, especially grown without the pesticides and chemicals. And maybe in Europe you don't even really have. Do you have organic carrots? Like where they promise they didn't use any harmful chemicals to grow your vegetables, or because that's a big thing in the US, trying to find that like healthy vegetable. All vegetables should be healthy, but in the US you have to like there's a lot of chemicals in it. Yeah.
But there's a reason our biggest farms look like that and Almeria's look like this. It all goes back to how each country responded to a crisis. The 1930s, kind of a tough time all over the world, and the US and Spain were no exceptions. Each was reeling from post-World War I societal shifts, economic collapse, and, in Spain's case, a violent civil war that established the Franco dictatorship.
You have placed Spain in my hand, he has told the fascists. And I assure you that my hands will not tremble.
In each country, the government stepped in to shape the future of agriculture. The results, almost 100 years later, could not be more different. First, the US. In the 1930s, the nation's farmers were in a real bind. Encouraged by the government to overproduce during the war, prices crashed in the 1920s.
And all of this was happening right as the Dust Bowl was wreaking havoc on farmland.
A lifetime turned to dust.
This is fascinating. Like, I think I'm about to find out why American farming is the way it is and why European farming is better because of something that happened decades ago. Like different decisions that our governments made.
A way of life ended. By the thousands, they abandoned their homes.
So while the rest of the country got speeded up, farmers suffered. Nearly 1 million of them lost their farms in the first 4 years of the Great Depression. So the government took action. In 1933, FDR passed the Agricultural Adjustment Act, which later evolved into the Farm Bill.
Things on the farm are not as good as they should be, as good as they ought to be, or as good as they will be.
In short, the government gave farmers loans if they grew less crops. Then they bought up the excess and stored it until prices recovered. But
so the US government like bailed them out. Gave farmers loans, money, bought their stuff because nobody was buying it. Our government like bailed them out, saved them, which I mean, that does make sense on some level.
Only for the big commodity crops we've talked about before. Things like corn, wheat, and also cotton, hogs, and dairy. And it worked. Prices stabilized and farms stayed in business, especially the biggest ones. They were the ones already growing those commodity crops, so they benefited disproportionately from the government's loans. Smaller farmers and sharecroppers got next to nothing. Okay, remember all that. Now, back over to Spain. Spain was reeling in its own way. Post-World War I overproduction, economic depressions, and a violent civil war that led to the establishment of the Franco dictatorship.
We don't really learn about the history of Spain, so this is all new to me.
At this time, Spain's economy relied heavily on agriculture, but not here in Almeria, not yet. For years, there had been ongoing efforts to irrigate this land with water from elsewhere, but most of them failed. And if they didn't fail, they were prohibitively expensive. There was a lot going on here, but basically the Franco regime established something called the National Institute for Colonization to help sort of revitalize and grow the agricultural sector. But their goals for Almeria basically boiled down to two things. One, bring in more people to farm the land, and two, make that first one actually possible by developing new farming and irrigation techniques.
Oh, that's already a big difference. The American government solved our problem with money, just throwing money at the farmers to keep them in business, basically, long enough to survive the economic downturn. Whereas Spain tried to actually innovate and create something new, change the way farming worked, so that the farmers could survive based on a better product rather than just artificially being given money, which is perhaps riskier, but seems to have massively paid off.
While the INC fell far short of its stated goals, this area was nonetheless transformed, with thousands of hectares of new farmable land across about 130 new villages. In 1963, inspired by similar work in the Canary Islands, 2 INC scientists supercharged progress by wrapping a plot of land in plastic. The idea took off, and so did the productivity and profitability for the area's many, many small farmers.
Like, I've heard of greenhouses, like, I'm familiar with that, but I've never seen it done like this.
And all these small farmers banded together so that they could sort of stand up against the government. And that was a big contrast to what was happening in the United States. From the 1930s onward, the farm bills just kept propping up these larger farms that were growing commodity crops. As smaller farmers had to give up, the bigger farms got bigger, gained political lobbying power, and expanded their already massive commodity empires with the invention of new synthetic fertilizers and pesticides.
Oh, so that's another thing that happened in the US. Oh my God, this is not good. They don't teach us about this. They do not teach us about this. This makes us look very bad and kind of dumb and kind of greedy, actually. And very capitalistic, you know, consolidating the big farming corporations. So they're the ones that can survive and all the little family farms get screwed. But it's good for business, and it's our way of being efficient. It's just, well, I didn't know that. I know we're like that with a lot of things. I didn't know we were like that with farming.
So while farmers unified in Almeria, they were fighting each other in the US. Jump to the 1970s, and the US government pivoted towards a free market approach aimed at just making food as cheap as possible for the consumer. What this meant for farmers is that Old MacDonald used to have a farm with chickens and cows and vegetables and oats, to Old MacDonald only grows soybeans or wheat or corn. Pick your monoculture. And with all of that storable product, we started exporting.
I mean, that is what I'm used to. It's true. Like, just all one crop. Like, around me, all I ever see is corn.
1975, the US accounted for 50% of the world's grain exports. So all of that backstory is why Almeria blossomed into this, and the United States blossomed into that. And the Farm Bill today still very much drives what the US prioritizes in its food system. It makes you wonder, shouldn't we, the United States, be able to do the same thing? The answer is kind of.
Yeah, why aren't we doing this?
We do have greenhouses, some of which are very large and successful. But ultimately, our system can't really compete with greenhouses in places like the Netherlands, Canada, and Spain. And that's because of money, labor, and centralization. Put simply, in the US, it will always be cheaper just to import from our neighbors. There is no competing with that. If we can expand greenhouses, well, so can Canada and Mexico. And
wow. And the United States, we like to think that we don't depend on anybody. That is such a lie. Like, this is such proof. Like, we don't. It's literally just better for us to import all these vegetables and fruits from other countries. We don't even have the infrastructure to grow our own food anymore. Wow. I did not know that.
They're going to do it in a cheaper way. Add to that the issue of labor, which has always been complicated in the US and is especially so now. The hard work of agriculture is mostly done by migrants, but our visa system is super complicated and pretty controversial. And finally, centralization. Greenhouse hubs in the Netherlands, Canada, and here are all built as these very centralized hubs where you have everything you need within a very short distance. The product, education, research, workers, distributors, they're all right here.
Imagine if you're
I mean, that just makes Europe seem way more organized. Like, you guys are way more focused. This isn't an accident that everything is in the same place, streamlined, ready to go, perfectly set up. That's not by mistake. That's very intentional. And Europe has shown that this is possible and extremely successful. And for stupid, greedy reasons, we're not doing this in the US, even though we could try. We're just, and maybe we couldn't, the way we've set everything up, but that's crazy.
Right now, many of the already limited programs for indoor agriculture and greenhouses have been stalled by the Trump administration. Farming policy is often born out of crises. A nation that can't feed itself will die, so it must adapt. Do we just have to wait for another tragedy to strike the United States for us to change how we do things? I, for one, don't want to do that. So if farming policy is responsible for where we are today, maybe farming policy is the only way out.
Wow. That was awesome. That was so good, so informative, but also so disturbing. Talk about something that's so important that we don't talk about at all in the US. We don't teach any of this stuff. It's like when I learn about things like this, it's like I feel like we're living a lie here in the US because not talking about it is close to lying about it. You know, and I think we do lie about it. Like in school, we learn about farming and they never once mention anything like this. As a matter of fact, in the US, like I said, we're led to believe that American farming is extremely successful and lucrative, and we don't even grow enough to feed our own people. And we're the ones spending all the money buying other countries' farming production. Oh my god. Yeah, so this totally changed how I think about American farming, actually. That's crazy. And why aren't we doing it like Europe does it? Well, they gave some reasons, but it's not good answers. So, I am glad I took a look at this, though. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on how Europe farms better than the US. Now, I get it. I get it. Wow. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.